You are mid-sentence and then nothing. Not because you ran out of words, not because you stopped caring. You just went somewhere else. The words dried up, the room got loud in a strange way, and the only thing left was a wall you didn't build on purpose, but suddenly cannot get around. If that's ever happened to you, or if someone you love has done exactly this to you during an argument and you had no idea where they went, this is for both of you. Here's the thing that nobody around you got right when they called it cold, or avoidant, or passive-aggressive. Going silent under pressure is not a personality flaw. It's a system shutting down to prevent a crash. And once you understand what's actually happening inside the body in that moment, you stop blaming yourself for it. You also stop misreading it in the people you love. There is a specific kind of person this hits hardest. The one who processes deeply. The one who, when the conversation is calm, can talk about feelings with more precision than most people manage in a lifetime. But the moment the emotional temperature spikes, that same person goes completely blank. Not quiet, blank. Like someone pulled the plug. The science has a name for what's happening in that moment. And it's not weakness. It's called emotional flooding. John Gottman, the researcher who spent decades studying how couples fight and why some survive it, found that flooding is one of the most reliable predictors of communication breakdown, not because flooded people don't care, but because their bodies have already left the building, even while they're still sitting in the chair. Heart rate climbs above 100 beats per minute. The thinking part of the brain, the part that finds words and weighs consequences and knows that saying the wrong thing right now will cost you, essentially goes offline. What's left is a nervous system in full emergency mode with no road out except silence. Think about the last time it happened. Not an abstract last time, the specific one. Someone said something, maybe it was a tone, maybe it was a particular phrase they always use, maybe it was just the look, and you felt it land in your chest before your brain even registered the words. And then the scramble. You tried to find the right response. You tried to stay present, but the thoughts kept slipping. The words kept coming out wrong in your head before you even said them. And at some point, your mouth just closed. Not as a tactic, as a surrender. And then came the second problem. The silence looked like something it wasn't. It looked like you didn't care. It looked like you were punishing them. It looked like the conversation didn't matter to you. When the truth is almost the opposite, you cared so much that your system overloaded trying to handle it. Sign 1. You don't go silent on everything, only on what matters most. This is the detail that most people miss. If emotional flooding were a personality trait, it would show up everywhere. But it doesn't. You can talk about difficult things at work, you can handle tense moments with strangers, you can even discuss heavy topics with people you don't know well. The flooding happens specifically with the people and the stakes you cannot afford to lose. Your nervous system reads the weight of the relationship, the cost of getting this wrong, and it throws every resource it has at the problem simultaneously, which is exactly what overloads the circuit. A fuse doesn't blow when the power is low. It blows when too much runs through it at once. Sign 2. Your body goes before your mind does. Most people think going silent is a decision. It isn't. Ask someone who floods regularly, and they'll tell you they felt it in their throat, in their hands, sometimes in a kind of ringing in their ears, before they had any conscious intention to stop talking. The body is already in threat, response, cortisol, adrenaline, the whole cascade, while the mind is still trying to participate in the conversation. You're not being strategic, you're being biological. The silence is a symptom, not a choice. There's a particularly sharp version of this that happens when the other person escalates trying to get a response. They see the silence. They interpret it as withdrawal or contempt. Their own distress goes up. They push harder, and your system reads that escalation as confirmation that the situation is dangerous, which floods you deeper. Both people are now trapped in a loop where the thing one person does to try to reconnect is the exact thing that makes reconnection impossible for the other. Sign 3. You've rehearsed the conversation 100 times and still gone blank in the actual moment. You've done it in the shower, on the drive home, at 2 a.m. lying in the dark. You knew exactly what you wanted to say. You had the words, you had the tone, you'd even accounted for how they might respond. and then you sat down across from them and the whole thing evaporated. This is not a memory problem or a communication problem in the ordinary sense. Under flooding conditions, access to previously prepared language is genuinely impaired. The brain under acute stress prioritizes survival scanning over language retrieval. Your rehearsal lived in the calm version of your nervous system. The flooded version doesn't have the same files open. Sign 4. The silence costs you more than it costs them. People who watch someone go silent during a hard conversation often feel abandoned. That's real, and it matters. But the person inside the silence is not resting. They are in a kind of internal chaos that looks peaceful from the outside and feels like drowning from the inside. The thoughts are not absent, they're jammed. Too many signals, all arriving at once, none of them getting through to the mouth. And layered on top of that is the awareness of how the silence is landing, which adds another layer of distress, which floods the system further. You are not winning by going quiet. You are barely surviving it. Sign 5. Afterward, you can say everything. 20 minutes later, an hour later. The next morning, you find the words, all of them, with clarity and precision and the exact emotional truth you wanted to convey in the moment. And sometimes you say them, and it helps. And sometimes you say them too late, or to no one, because the window closed. This is the cruelest part of emotional flooding for someone who is naturally reflective and articulate. The gap between who you are when you're regulated and who you become when you're overwhelmed is so wide that the people closest to you sometimes meet two completely different people and don't understand why. Now, here's what it costs if you let this keep running without any intervention. Relationships where one person floods and the other person chases get stuck in a pattern that Gottman called pursue-withdraw. The pursuer feels chronically shut out. The withdrawer feels chronically overwhelmed. Both interpret the other's behavior as evidence of not caring, when both are just people with different nervous system responses to the same high-stakes situation. Left alone, that pattern erodes trust in a way that has nothing to do with love and everything to do with two people who never got a map for what's actually happening. So here's what actually works. Not communicate better. That's advice for people who aren't flooded. This is for the flooding itself. Step 1. Name it before you disappear. This sounds almost too small to matter, but it changes everything. Before the silence fully closes in, say the simplest possible version of what's happening. Not an explanation, not an apology, just a signal. I'm getting overwhelmed and I need 10 minutes. That's it. What that sentence does is separate the silence from contempt in the other person's mind. It tells them you're not leaving the conversation. You're pausing your nervous system. It keeps the door open. And it's short enough that you can say it even when the words are already starting to fail. Step 2, the pause has to be real. Not 10 minutes of running the argument through your head in the bathroom. 20 minutes minimum, doing something that genuinely disengages the stress response. Walking, slow breathing, anything that isn't replaying the fight. Gottman's research found the heart rate has to actually come down before the thinking brain comes back online. You cannot think your way through flooding. You have to wait it out physiologically. The goal of the break isn't to win the argument in your head. It's to return as the version of yourself that can actually have the conversation. Step 3, and this one is for the people who love someone who floods. Your instinct to follow them, to keep talking, to push for resolution right now makes complete sense. The silence feels like rejection. But when someone is flooded, adding more input is not a path to connection. It's more electricity into an already blown circuit. The most loving thing you can do in that moment